Take yourself back to 1981. The year of this, and this, and them, and him. All-time great Shergar won the Derby.
And it's Shergar in the lead, Shergar from scintillating air in second place.
Chariots of Fire and its theme tune ran away with the Oscars. Da 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 da. And in October, Dalham Hall Stud was bought by Darley. And so, 40 years ago, it began.
It's Halling.
6 men. 2-5 Derby wins it nicely.
And standing as a stallion here at the time was Shergar's sire, great nephew. The farm came with 10 broodmares. One of those was in foal to the champion miler Chris. Her name was Oh So Fair. And the resulting produce was one of the great race mares of the modern era, the 1985 Triple Crown winner, Oh So Sharp.
Oh So Sharp wins the ladder.
10 years later, with the stud having grown to some 2,000 acres, the European champion 2-year-old Machiavellian had covered his first book of mares. To celebrate a successful season with his 40 shareholders, a lunch was planned, coinciding with July week at Newmarket. And so 30 years ago, what amounted to the first Darley Stallion parade took place. It's changed a bit over the decades. More stallions, bigger marquees, a 3-day affair, alternative entertainment, an ever more imaginative menu, and the pandemic is changing it again in 2021. The 30th parade, on the 40th anniversary of Darley's ownership of Dalham Hall Stud, is taking place online. 25 years since Darley first sponsored the July Cup. So much here at Dalham Hall comes full circle. The first Darley Stallion parade took place in 1991, and the star of this lovely lawn then was Machiavellian. Fast forward to the mid-90s, and Machiavellian's first significant stakes winner was a mare called Rebecca Sharp. Rebecca Sharp raced in the black, white and red silks of Anthony Oppenheimer, who, out of Rebecca Sharp's dam on the house, 4 generations later, the 4th dam of this horse here, Cracksman, who is now one of the stars here at Dalham Hall, and Anthony is alongside, looking very proudly at one of your pride and joy offspring, Anthony Cracksman. It must give you enormous pleasure to see him here as a real star of the show.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, he certainly deserves it, because he was a very good, very good racehorse indeed. Rebecca Sharp was a brilliant mare, and then Machiavellian, obviously the stallion. But now we've got this Frankel horse, who is really a brilliant racehorse, and his stock looking very attractive indeed at the moment. We had Tattersalls visiting us to look at our yearlings, and they said that, unprompted I have to say, that they thought the Cracksmans looked some of the best horses they've seen for a long time.
And in all honesty, you just don't need a sales pitch for the best horse there's been by Frankel so far.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question about that. And I mean, he started off really well. Won as a 2-year-old, but he was a bit immature because he was a later foal than some of the other stallions. And so it took time to get going. But once he got going, he was fantastic. And won, mile and quarter, no problem at all, winning by 7 lengths in the Champions Stakes twice.
And am I right in thinking that he shares his, I think, 5th dam with the 5th dam of Golden Horn, who also stands here?
Absolutely right. Same sort of family, right? Going back, tap roots. They're terribly important in breeding horses. You really have good mares going back to really good families. And he certainly goes back to Laura, as does Golden Horn.
And the man who's knew this horse perhaps best as a youngster, James Frank, is with us now, because he runs your Hascombe stud.
Absolutely. Just
down the road here in Newmarket. James, welcome.
Thank you, Nick.
It must be quite a wonderful experience for you seeing 2 of your boys here at Darley. Do you feel like a proud dad?
We feel this way. I mean, I feel that way, and everyone else in the stud feels this way. It's makes us very proud, really, to have 2 here and to have Cracksman we're looking at now.
So tell me about this horse as a foal. When you first clapped eyes on Cracksman.
Well, when he was born in the early hours of the morning, and the next morning when we walked in there, looked at him as a cracking-looking Franco foal. you know, we were quite pleased, and he actually saw, you know, growing. He was quite a lovely foal, you know. In the field, you could see, you know, there was something special about him, but we didn't know he was going to be a champion. But there was something really special and eye-catching that we always kind of resonate with. Yeah, no, he was a lovely foal.
And when you've done your job at the stud and you send them off to be pre-trained and then trained, how closely can you follow them, or are you just straight back in, focused on the next crop?
I mean, we constantly follow them. We constantly get news about them, you know, every week or so. You know, they tend to feed us more information that this one is doing well, this one is doing well, this one is not doing well. But with Cracksman, we just said he was actually doing well, and it was that day we were waiting for when he's going to go out and start racing, which, yeah, when he did start racing, it was fantastic to see him run.
When he came to stud, we brought him to Hascombe stud on the way from the training stables, so he could go round, all the staff could see them, and all the local people who knew the horse could see him before he retired to stud here.
He had great power. He has great power, this horse. And he was a horse that people will think of as staying on well in those two signature performances at Ascot. But he had significant speed as well.
Female line actually is very, very fast, much faster than people realise.
And actually, going all the way back down that female
Yes.
side, it's the Nasrullah family, if we're going really deep into the roots.
That's a very long way back, yes,
Yeah.
you're quite right.
And I'm guessing that is where actually you've got not just great galloping power, but also great speed.
There's much more speed than an average stallion has, because she's got the sort of Guineas winner in there, 1,000 Guineas winner, but also very fast, well-bred horses. So I think he will be, he'll do very well, I think.
And it's a very, very important year for this horse, because those first yearlings are going to hit the sales ring. How do you feel?
Well, I'm very pleased with the yearlings. They're looking fantastic, really strong and powerful.
James, you remember this horse as a foal. The foals by him that you've seen and you've raised and you've nurtured, do they share his characteristics?
They do. I mean, we have got two yearlings at the moment that have got the same characteristics and good-natured, easy to work with, and they're very lovely animals that we've got. I mean, the two colts we've got, they're lovely, good yearlings, and the two fillies, if you walk in the paddock, they are brilliant.
Strength, power, class. That is Cracksman, the best by the best.
He says yes.
Well, the wonderful Cracksman there, Anthony Oppenheimer and James Franks, and we're racing through the Darley Stallion Parade 2021, and we haven't had a chance to catch our breath and catch up with Sam Bullard, the director of Stallions at Dalham Hall. Sam, 40 years of Dalham Hall stud gone by like that.
Amazing, Nick, amazing, and another Stallion Parade, and it's a great day for us to be able to welcome breeders who have sent mares to the Stallions during the season. Sadly, no party this year, but it's great to be able to have a virtual one again, and thanks for helping us with that.
Not a bit. It's an absolute pleasure, and especially to see all these fantastic horses. And for all the logistical challenges, and there have been many over the last 18 months, you must be very pleased with results that your Stallions are producing on the racecourse and in the sales ring.
Yeah, the Stallions are really doing their bit now. We've got a fantastic roster, which you're going through today. But I think at the moment, we just got to say thank you to the breeders. They've had a lot of challenges in the last 2 years. COVID last year, and this year with the Brexit and all the governments seeming to be pulling in opposite directions to make it difficult to move horses around Europe. And yet they've come through it. And I really genuinely thank them for their perseverance and for continuing to use the Stallions.
Are you still feeling that the industry is robust and resilient in these hard times?
It's incredible how resilient the industry is. We've had a lot of help in some aspects, the way the racing has kept going. But yeah, they've been amazing, and I think long may they survive, and soon may we return back to normal quickly. Just
to pick up a couple of the threads of the Stallions that are here at the moment. Obviously, so much is built around the legacy of Dubai, and I guess the ultimate legacy of Dubai Millennium. How much satisfaction does it give your whole team here that is really starting to bear fruit again in another generation?
Well, the Darley Stallion operation started on the back of Dubai Millennium, which was 21 years ago. And for this son of Dubai Millennium to be such a breed-shaping stallion that he's become, it is huge for the whole operation. It's huge for the breeding operation, it's huge for the stallion operation, and obviously it's great for the racing operation.
But in addition to what Dubawi's done, and more success this year, and his stallion sons like Night of Thunder, who's done so well for you, I look around here at Dalham Hall and I see potential everywhere. It's not proven yet, but I see potential everywhere in the Too Darn Hots and the Cracksmans and the Pinatubos. When you walk down this row, you must think, well, you know, this is just the beginning.
Well, the great thing about having a racing operation that is working like it is working now is a huge boost for the breeding operation, and obviously leads into having a fantastic roster of young horses that are starting to come through, and that is very exciting.
So much young talent, Sam, and with an eye to the future, I've been catching up with one of the new boys, Pinatubo, and the head of nominations here at Darley, Dawn Laidlaw. Dawn, how's he settled into life as a stallion?
He's settled in really easy. He's one of these horses. He got here last October from Charlie's. He looked great. We started showing him to clients. You know, the general word was it was hard to fault him. He's got great temperament. He walks really well, and he looks good.
And I can't imagine he was that hard to sell. An absolutely brilliant 2-year-old. That day at the Curragh, I was lucky enough to be there when he won the National Stakes. Have you ever seen a 2-year-old performance like that?
No, it was a devastating performance in the National Stakes. And he'd been on the go since May. He went right through to October, unbeaten as a 2-year-old. Hard to fault. So no, he was an easy sell. Everybody wanted to use him.
And the thing I remember about his 2-year-old career is that he was constantly just taking his whole team a little bit by surprise. He was always slightly ahead of their expectations, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think you'll have to ask Charlie about that, but I'd agree. I think Charlie would say, you know, he slightly missed him. You know, that's why he started off where he did, and he went to Epsom and ran in the Woodcut, and I think that's when they probably started to realise they had a special horse in their hands. But he's very easy, and that's what's made him so good at this next job. You know, I think the stallion men love him. He's adapted really quickly. He's a intelligent horse, so it's been easy for him.
And here at Darley, we often talk about the legacy of Dubawi and his side, Dubai Millennium. We need to also recognise the significant legacy of Shamadal and what he is delivering and what he might yet deliver for you.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, to have sons of the likes of Dubawi and Shamadal is really important for us. You know, there's lots of mares there that it really works to send them to sons of Shamadal or Dubawi. So yeah, it's great, the legacy of Shamadal being carried forward with the likes of Pinatubo and Blue Point.
And is there a characteristic to that sire line, do you think, that specifically distinguishes it?
I would say they're tough, straightforward horses. This is a good-looking example of a Shamadal, I always say. Sometimes they can be a little bit plain, but he's not. You can see he's a really good-looking horse. He's very correct. But yeah, I think toughness, that's what will stand out for the Shamadal line.
And Dawn, just looking at his pedigree there at the back of the box, just going all the way back into the 3rd and 4th dams, El Jazzy, the dam of Rafa, who is the
invincible, invincible Spirit. So you're coming from an already established stallion line here of Invincible Spirit and Kodiak, who's obviously doing so well at the moment with his sons as well. So it's a really exciting stallion pedigree.
In terms of his book, is it as stellar as you'd expect?
Yeah, he's covered a really strong book of mares. I mean, he's been supported by all the best breeders in Europe. If I just mention one or two, I'll miss some names out, but you've got the likes of the Aga Khan, Chively, Judmont, Moigler, Meon Valley, Dayton, Watership Down, Setchworth, Monceau. So yeah, all the big important names that will help make the stallion.
There you are. Everybody wants a piece of him. Pinatubo, and his race record and his physique tells you why. And from one Timeform Horse of the Year to another, and a really important new boy to the Darley Stallion roster, standing at Kildangan in Ireland, where I'm heading now by the magic of Zoom, to join Eamon Moloney. Eamon, thanks for talking to us. Let's talk a little about Ghaiyyath first of all, because there can have been few stallions of his profile retire in recent years. How's he settled in?
Oh, he's a dream to have. He owns the yard when he comes out to show. He's a very special horse.
Stallions come in all shapes and sizes, but there was always something physically impressive about Ghaiyyath as a racehorse. Just describe him to me from a horseman's perspective.
He is probably as big as you get when you get this kind of Dubawi shape. So he's standing 16.5, but he kind of balances that out. He's got a great shoulder, great hip. But I think his biggest thing is his walk. He just has this kind of determination in his stride, and he strides off down the yard. He's a little bit like Teofilo. They just have that kind of swagger that just those kind of special horses have. That it is his big thing, his walk for me. And I think people are just very impressed. He's my type of horse now. He has everything really. And I think breeders recognise that quite quickly.
And he's a classic pedigree as well, by Dubawi and Out of Nighttime, who herself was an Irish Guineas winner. So he's an easy sell, I guess, in that regard. He was a great enthusiast and a brilliant horse on the racecourse. What's he like character-wise?
Character-wise, he's quite a good, relaxed horse. The lads find him easy to look after. He's he gets on about his work very. He's great. He's taken to his new job very well. He's a kind of professional sort of horse. He finds things easy. When he comes out, like, he'll stand in the yard and he'll stand up there, and he won't. Nothing phases him. He's a very relaxed horse. And he was always like that now, because we saw him several times as a young foal in Mrs. We went to see him in Mrs. Wells, and he kind of had presence. There was a bit of silence that first day he came around the corner in Springbank, and Dermot Weld was standing there, and he knew the reaction that was coming, and Ghaiyyath strode around the corner with nighttime, and there was a bit of silence as he strode around a little circle in Springbank, and I wasn't surprised he made what he made as a foal.
Well, if Dermot Weld knew, that everybody knows now. Ghaiyyath was a brilliant racehorse, a champion racehorse. It's great that he's doing so well with you at stud, and I can see how fond you are of him. I want to talk about another new boy. So we've talked about Ghaiyyath from that Dubawi Darley line. What about Earthlight from that Shamadal Darley line? How's he getting on?
He's a very different horse to Ghaiyyath now. He's a compact horse, but unlike all Shamadals, this guy can walk. And as you'll see there in the footage as he's walking along there, he is an incredible walker for a speed horse. Like, there's not too many, record-breaking middle park winners that can walk like this. And that was the big thing when people came to see him, that it was this walk just completely surprised them, because they knew what he was going to look like. They knew he wasn't big, but they knew he had power. But I don't think anyone expected the walk. That's been a big thing with him.
Given what you're saying, and from your experience looking at stallions and the distance requirements of their progeny, then, would you anticipate Earthlight more as a classic type sire rather than an early speed type sire?
I would think that this horse will comfortably get horses that will get up to a mile. He's out of a juvenile, a Group 1 juvenile filly, over a mile. The new approach side of his pedigree should just add to that, but he does not walk like a sprinter, so I would expect him to get kind of from Everton from 5 comfortably to a mile.
And from a horse who could conceivably get sprinters, milers, classic horses, good 2-year-olds, to a horse who was all about speed and power. The only horse to win 3 Group 1 sprints at Royal Ascot, and that horse is Blue Point. Now, his first foals are on the ground now. Eamon, do you like what you see?
Oh yeah, he's stamped them. There is no doubt. They're Blue Points when you walk out into that field. They have that bit of presence, but the strength and quality. They have the Shamadal head, but not the typical Shamadal head, but they definitely have those qualities. And we've seen quite a few nice foals by Blue Point here in Kildangan so far, and definitely with our clients as well. There is no doubt about it. They are nice.
And am I right in thinking he's had quite an interesting selection of mares?
There's no doubt the best mare that he covered was probably the Dama Palace Pier, and she has a cracking Blue Point foal in the ground. But there's plenty of backup to her to produce a good Blue Point.
But he's taking some of those classic type mares as well, isn't he? He's not. People aren't just looking to breed a sprinter by him, even though he clearly was a brilliant sprinter himself.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think people were just so impressed by him. He was out on his own last year as the best stallion that retired to stud, bar none, I think. And people respected that and sent him their best mares, So the mare quality that he covered is exceptional.
Well, Eamon, it sounds like you've got masses to look forward to. Thanks so much for talking to us today. And now we are going to meet a breeder who has the good fortune to have one of those foals by Blue Point. Matt, perhaps first we can start by asking what it was you liked about the stallion.
Well, I suppose his race record, Nick, for starters. I mean, he raced a long career, a brilliant 2-year-old, beat some very good horses. and he's consistently ran in 2, 3, and 4, always in the frame. So we were very keen to use him anyway, and then we went to see him, obviously with Harry, and absolutely loved him. I mean, beautiful looking horse, very correct, lovely deep rich colour, good hind leg. I mean, everything about him was what we'd hoped it would be, and we sent 2 mares from the farm to him. Obviously any stallion first crop in Kildangan commercially is attractive, a son of Shamardal, and we chose a mare that we thought was a penalty kick in producing a nice foal, and the other mare was, you know, a mare having her second foal, so we didn't have as good a proven record with her, but both foals, exceptional colts. I mean, I think it's a case of black cat, black kitten. I mean, both foals look very, very like him. Same colour, just a beautiful attitude, both absolutely beautiful colts from day one. So I did actually call the boys in Kildangan and I said, we got a real one here. I think he's certainly got 2 from 2 here, but 2-0 up here, definitely.
And from one Darley stallion in Blue Point who's got his first foals on the ground this year to another. And can it be 12 months since Madeleine, Lloyd Webber and Simon Marsh and I were standing looking at Too Darn Hot and wondering what might happen? Here we are at Watership Down, Madeleine. What has happened? How happy are you?
Well, I mean, it couldn't have gone better so far. We're really happy with the foals. He got a lot of mares in foal, and the foals on the ground, I'm not an expert looking at foals at all, but what I do know is when they're pretty and attractive, and the ones I've seen certainly seem to be, and I do know when they're too small and they're not too small, and they look the perfect article. They all look a bit like him, which is great because he's a really, really attractive stallion.
They always talk about stamping stock. Why is that important, Simon?
I think it's interesting. I mean, some horses do really, really stamp their stock and others don't. I mean, Frankel is a prime example of a horse that seems to throw to the mare rather than to the stallion. But, you know, Dubarwi's, you can see a Dubarwi out in the field every time, you know, you walk out into the field, he really, really stamps his stock. And Too Darn Hot seems to be a horse that really, really does stamp his stock. He seems to be a pure bay breeder. Every single foal he's had so far has been a bay, and I think it is a hugely important thing that if they are stamping their stock, they are then, you know, you would hope that the talent that they had as racehorses will really come through.
Madeleine, you've had so many good racehorses, you've had so many great brood mares as well. What's the experience like of being so heavily involved with a horse who could, if things go right, be really important for the breed?
Well, I mean, we're just fingers crossed. I mean, you just never know if they're going to make it as a stallion, but he's got everything going for him. And of course, that family's given us an enormous amount of fun. You know, Dari Mead, the Dam, you know, just, you know, all those Group 1s all over the world. And then we've got her stock, Somi Dar, Lati Dar, again, all over the world, black type winners. And it is incredibly exciting. That family just keeps giving and giving. And it just wouldn't surprise me at all if Too Darn Hot makes a great stallion. We seem to be really lucky, and I'm touching everything.
And in terms of, it's not as though you're ever going to need anyone to twist your arm to maintain your enthusiasm for the sport, but how much greater will it be when there are hundreds of little Too Darn Hots running around and you can pretty much watch them every day?
I can't imagine what it's going to be like, because every day Simon is going to be ringing me saying, we've got 5 runners today all over the world. I mean, it's just never going to stop. He's bad enough anyway. We hardly have any runners, but when it's going to be, you know, 140, and then we've got the Australian ones as well, it's going to be every day there's going to be an interest. I think it'll be the most exciting chapter in our racing and breeding career.
And Simon, how's he taken to the shuttling? Because they've got to have a certain temperament for it.
I think very, very well indeed. And as you say, they do need a temperament. I mean, he covered a full book of mares in his first year. He went down to Australia. He was limited to 130 mares down there. He's got well over 90% of those mares in foal. And he's come back here and he's covered a full book of mares over here. He's got over 140 mares in foal in his second season, which, you know, to be honest with you, is remarkable for any horse in their second season to have that support from the breeders.
And Madeleine, when you look back on his racing career, how do you reflect on it?
It was just full. I mean, the amazing surprise, we've never really had a 2-year-old that has really blasted onto the racing landscape like he did. Ours tend to be 3-year-olds or back-end 2-year-old, 3-year-olds. So the exciting thing for us is we were in the game with a colt that we hardly ever have a colt either, but in the 2-year-old races. So that was really exciting for us. And the Dewhurst was just a standout day. The ups and downs of his 3-year-old career, you know, with his slight injury that put us off beam for the Guineas, and then finally coming through at the end, and then the injury again, was just the ups and downs were exciting, but he happened to be champion 3-year-old, so it all came good in the end.
Yeah, champion juvenile, champion 3-year-old, but almost we knew how good he was, that we always wanted a little bit more, didn't we?
Always wanted more, and everybody was just so disappointed he didn't make it to the Guineas, because I think that would have been his race, but we'll never know, and it didn't matter because he won those Group 1s later on in the season. He's
obviously from a family that served you incredibly well, but going back through his pedigree, Simon, he's absolutely steeped, he's soaked in sort of Darley Stallions all the way back to Topville in the 80s and in the wings in there as well.
I mean, I think
remarkably,
he's the mare's by Singspiel, who's by in the wings, who both stood at Darley, and the Stallion Dubawi stands at Darley, and Dubai Millennium stood at Darley, and I think Topville stood at Darley. So, yeah, there's Darley Stallions all the way through the pedigree, but you know, one of the remarkable things about his pedigree is that, you know, he was a multiple Group 1 winner. He's out of a multiple Group 1 winner. He's out of a Group 1 winner. And, you know, there's just Group 1s all the way through his pedigree. It's just steeped in it. And you go back into the third dam and you find Darshan, who was the most fantastic stallion himself.
It's that old Aga Khan pedigree, isn't it, coming through from generations back. Madeleine, last year you were talking about Too Darn Hot's physique and saying how much he reminded you of Darara, and how that, and she was the first mare that you could have got together to form this.
She was one of our first foundation mares we bought, and Simon's in Ireland, and we managed to buy her out of a Aga Khan draft, and she was very similar, small, neat, strong, very well balanced, beautiful head, and so I think the combination of her and Dubawi, you know, you've just got this perfect specimen. I mean, you can't fault him on his conformation.
And in terms of the mares that you're really supporting him with, Madeleine, you've got some quite exciting new additions to the stud.
Yes, that's right. I mean, we bought some mares to send to him. I think we've got 4 foals, and we've got 5 mares going to him. So we're supporting him with our own stock, but we also bought some mares especially to go to him last year, and they're in foal. We got foals from them, and one's in foal this year. Exciting new mare called Gale Force that there's a slight update on that.
That's a tremendous understatement. A slight pedigree update as she throws you the impressive Irish Derby winner.
The Irish Derby winner, so that's a bit of a coup for us. And so again, we probably wouldn't have bought that mare if we hadn't got Too Darn Hot. So it's amazing how things work out.
You're right, he really has been the gift that keeps giving, even to this point.
Even to this point. So it's incredibly exciting to see our own foals by Too Darn Hot in the field.
What do you think, Simon?
I think we are very, very lucky to have him. Hopefully he will be as successful as we believe and a lot of other breeders out there believe. He was a brilliant champion miler, but the pedigree itself is steeped in staying blood as well. So I don't think that he will be just an out-and-out speed stallion. I think he will get horses from every distance, like his father, Dubawi. Dubawi's a miler. He can get horses that are sprinters. He can get milers, horses that stay over 2 miles. So I think Too Darn Hot will fit into that category very easily.
Don't put him in a bracket.
I think he's he will transcend that.
What have you found in terms of people sending you the mares? What sort of mares have they been sending him? Obviously, you take good ones, but
I think it's been a real cross section. I mean, I think we've been, you know, he's covered a lot of Galileo mares and Shamadal mares and Fastnet Rock mares, and you know, and then quite a lot of people actually have sent him Dalakani mares, which is inbreeding to Delsey, which is the dam of Darara. So that's quite interesting in itself.
Do you find it quite easy, given the success that you've had, to separate out the commercial needs and what gets to you sentimentally with these horses?
It's sort of worked for us in both ways. We get attached to the mares, we get attached to the fillies, we tend to keep all of them. We do keep some of the colts, and frankly we've been rather lucky with the ones we've kept because we've had to keep them. And so if something works, then you may as well stick with the system.
Madeleine, if you had a single ambition for Too Darn Hot as a stallion, what would it be?
or we'd love quite a bit of black type for his first 2-year-olds. That would be fantastic. And then wouldn't it be great to have if he bred a Guineas winner?
Do you feel that would be completing the circle, if you like, and that was the race he couldn't get to and he should have got to?
I think that would just, you know, frank the form, wouldn't it? That would just frank the whole thing. It would be fantastic.
Racing up towards the line, Massar by 2 lengths to Roaring Lion and DXB, and it's Massar's Investec Derby for Godolphin.
Well, no matter which way you look at it, there's always something special about a Derby winner. It is the race, and here's a Derby winner by a Derby winner by a Derby winner, because he's Massar by New Approach, and he won the Derby for Charlie Appleby in the Godolphin Blue. Peter Stanley's with me, of New England Stud, and Peter, you're a big fan of this horse, Massar. Just tell me why.
He's kind of, in some ways, he's a bit of a breeder's dream. We all historically wanted to use Derby winners, but he's an old-fashioned Derby winner in that he's got the speed, he was hard raced, that sort of thing, and he had and has many different talents. Breeders nowadays, commercially, we've got to use horses that are 2-year-olds, that are precocious, and he's got it all. He's not one of those backward Derby winners. He was unusual. He was an impressive winner early on. He was able to run at Royal Ascot as a 2-year-old. He's a group winner over 7 furlongs. So he's exactly the kind of horse that we'd like to use, because he's capable of getting us a classic winner, but he should be commercial in the sales ring, which is what really excites us, as well as breeding a good horse.
He's standing with Chris here today here at Dalham Hall, and I know, Chris, you're not the tallest, but this is a big horse. He's a proper unit.
He is. He's very robust, as you can see, very well built. The power from behind is immense, Nick. So, really pleasure to do him.
And Peter, when you're coming to look at these stallions and you see a horse who's got his height, presumably you want all the dimensions to match that height.
Yeah, we want the depth, we want the power behind the saddle, we need the bone, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see just how good looking he was when I first came to see him. He's an athletic horse, he's a great walker. Normally, we're having to give up on something, because if you're trying to be commercial, can you afford the top prices? So normally you can't have racing performance and conformation and the pedigree, but this horse has actually got it all. I mean, Urban Sea needs no introduction. She's been probably the greatest broodmare of all times, in my opinion. Her influence on the breed is going to be quite extraordinary going on, you know, with See the Stars and Galileo. So to find a horse here descended from a mare like that, with looks like this, who was a 2-year-old group winner, who was able to thrash the opposition in the Craven over a mile, and then go on and win a derby and go to stud for £15,000. Frankly, I couldn't get enough of him.
Yeah,
that was the nub of it, is we could afford to use him. You know, I suspect if he'd retired a year earlier, he wouldn't have been so affordable. But us breeders have short memories, and you know, his 4-year-old career wasn't such a success. So that was actually for the benefit, in some ways, of the horse and the rest of us, is we've been able to afford to use him. But I think a lot of the sensible breeders have got in and made use of him. He was £15,000 his first year, £14,000 this year, and the reports on the foals are very, very good, talking to other people. So I think he's a horse to be excited about. So Nick, he's got that great length of stride, which I think is, you know, so important. When we go to the yearling sales, obviously everybody will be wanting to see a good walker, and he's got that. The thing I particularly love about this horse as a Derby winner is that he had the speed and precocity to go with it. You know, historically, obviously being a Derby winner is the most important thing for a stallion, but in this modern world we live in, increasingly people are wanting speed, and so to have the combination of the speed with the Derby winner bit is exciting. I think there's something almost rather tragic about now when a horse wins the Derby. Everybody feels they've got to bring him back to 10 furlongs to prove that he's that he's not a stare and that he's more commercial and that sort of thing. And it's something that in racing, if we're going to keep England's heritage and what British racing and European racing is all about and not go the Australian route, we've got to use horses like this, because if we don't use these kind of horses, we're going to lose the stamina gene, which is all important. Speed and stamina, this is what we want.
Every big stud needs its star, and fortuitously for everybody here at Darley and Dalham Hall, this horse, Dubawi, he's gone a bit shy on me, has been its star for many, many years. Sam Bullard, just what a wonderful animal he is and has been for you.
How lucky we are to have him. How lucky we are. Son of the great Dubai Millennium. The object of the whole stallion operation was to try and get the next best stallions. And in Dubai, we've managed to get the best horse that's ever stood in Britain by some margin. Sire of 44 Group 1 winners now, and leading the field in Europe this year for black type winners by, well, he's had 22 black type winners so far, which is considerably clear of the field. So he's remarkable. But of course, it's not about him nowadays, it's about his sons, and that's exciting seeing them coming through.
Okay, so the bald fact is that 10 of his sons have produced a stakes winner this year, which is a remarkable statistic.
Yeah, I mean, it is so exciting. So Night of Thunder is doing a great job for us at the Kildangan Stud, and leading the field over there, and, you know, arguably the best, the most exciting young horse coming through. But then over here we've got the likes of Too Darn Hot, who is standing here now. I mean, how exciting is he with his pedigree and everything else, and his foals, first foals we're looking at this year. Very exciting. We've got Postponed, who's got his first runners here, and then back to Ireland.
He's had a winner already?
He's had a winner already.
Yeah.
He's had a winner already. And then back to Ireland, and we've got just a world champion that Charlie Appleby trained, homebred Ghaiyyath, another son of Dubawi, who the sky's the limit. I mean, he could be anything. So it is a really exciting time for the sons of Dubawi.
And you started this conversation by mentioning Dubai Millennium and evoking his spirit. It's quite extraordinary to think that that brilliant but ill-fated horse who only had half a season covering before he sadly died here at Dalham Hall, he's now almost a footnote in this horse's story and Dubawi's story.
He is, I mean, Dubai Millennium is responsible for shaping the breed, and that's what top stallions try to do, but it is all through him.
Yeah, and Dubai Millennium himself, you just arrived here at Darley when he came to stand here.
Yeah.
The buzz around the place when he first retired as a stallion must have been pretty significant after what he'd done on the racecourse.
He was an extraordinary racehorse, and for the first time, we realised that, you know, there was a huge demand for a horse of his level from breeders in America and breeders all the way around the world. And so we learned a lot because of him, and a lot of the journey was planned because of what he'd done.
And much of the sort of European bloodstock success post-war has been based on introducing a new strand of blood, and I guess that's what you did with Dubai Millennium, being by seeking the gold, but from that brilliant Fall Aspen family.
Absolutely, and I mean, our other great family is Shamadal, and, you know, so that's the Stormcat family, and that's doing a great job, and we're seeing several of his sons in the Stallion Parade as well. So no, these families are important to keep them going.
Okay, so history's going to judge Dubawi obviously really, really well, but what do you think people are going to say in generations to come about the characteristics of his sons and his progeny?
I often get asked what makes him stand apart from everything else, and there's no doubt it's what you can't see. There's no doubt it's in his head, and he just passes on the most amazing temperament, the most incredible will to win, and they're tough. They're tough. They want to help. They want to win.
It's funny, isn't it? Because he is a racehorse. He had a bit of character about him. His progeny and his stallion son seems to be imparting this real will to win, this incredible determination and genuine.
Yeah, and funneling that character in the right direction is what he's done, and they don't often get beaten in a photograph.
And they can be big, they can be small, they can be medium sized, but they can all run.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we've got different shapes and sizes here, and no one is to say which one is the right shape, and that's a great thing too. But of course, one of his strengths is that he has winners over every distance, and so inevitably you get different types of horse, different types of son and daughter, because they're winning over all the distances.
Well, with every stallion you seek a great legacy. Very rarely do you get it, but in this chap you most certainly have.
Caravaggio trying to come stand side. Harry Angel, though, leads Lamato and Intelligence Cross. Brando flashing home. It's Harry Angel that wins the July Cup.
So it's 25 years, would you believe it, since Darley first sponsored the July Cup, widely considered to be Europe's premier sprint Group 1. And Godolphin's own July Cup winner is to my right here, Harry Angel, and by God, he was brilliant that day for Adam Kirby and Clive Cox. Gareth now looks after Harry Angel here at Dalham Hall. He looks like everything he was on the racecourse, all power, speed, pace, bit of a coiled spring, Gareth.
Yes, he is. He's very enthusiastic in everything he does. In his covering duties now, he is, as you would have imagined, coming from the racecourse, being so busy, and he goes into the covering barn, does his duties efficiently. He's brave, everything he was on the racetrack. Yeah.
Do you enjoy him? Have you enjoyed being with him?
Yeah, he's a great character. He's just fun to be around, you know. You can see him for yourself. He's just a joy to look after, a champion like him.
And a real alpha?
Yeah. We have to come to an agreement. He tries to be alpha, I try to be alpha, but yeah, we find a middle ground.
But that's the way you have to do it, isn't it? When you're dealing with a stallion, you have to keep their character but harness it, yeah?
Yeah, and I was told from a young age, less is more with horses, and it's the same. I find it's a great way with stallions is do as little as you can to get by and have them looking as well as you can, but you don't want to be antagonising them, you know. They deserve to be looked after as well as a champion should.
And he was a real sprinting champion as well. His pedigree's up here on the wall by Dark Angel, that great sire line out of a mare by Cadeau Genera himself, a wonderful sprinter, wonderful Group 1 sprinter trained by Alex Scott and the family going all the way back with some famous names. Just in terms of how you keep horses like him in routine, is it as important as keeping a racehorse in training in routine?
Yeah, I think routine's very important to stallions in particular. So Ken would feed at 5:45 every morning. Then we would come in, the lads come in around 10 to 7, get the bridle on, muck them out, groom them, ready for a covering session at 8.
Well, now, would he take a good groom? Would he be happy with a good groom?
Yeah, you don't want to go over the top. I always think 10 minutes is plenty, a couple of times a day, and he does himself very well. He's a good eater, and just looks after himself. So, yeah, he doesn't mind being groomed at all.
And so in covering season, which is between February 14 and I suppose nowish really, isn't it?
Yeah.
How many mares would he generally cover a day when he's busy?
2 or 3 a day when he's busy, yeah. And he does it no hassle whatsoever. The first half of the season, he would be exercised in hand for 90 minutes in the morning and in the box for the rest of the day, and it just keeps him fresh and able to keep up to the demands of covering, because it's hard work for these horses.
Because that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Covering 3 mares alone is not enough to keep him fit. He needs the fitness conditioning to be able to manage the covering.
Yeah, of course. And he wears a South England side reins when he goes and exercise, and it just makes them use himself properly and walk in the right posture.
So when you're looking at a stallion, when you're looking at an active stallion, quite a young one like him, he's only, what is he now, 7 years old. What do you want to see from them in terms of their musculature?
Well, just a nice outlook. Harry wouldn't be the strongest looking stallion in the world, but he's well put together. He's got that sprinting hind quarter on him, his strong shoulder. But yeah, you like to see a little crest on the neck and just look like a man, you know.
But when we talk about stallions letting down after they've come off the racecourse, we don't mean like you just let them go slobby and get fat. You still want to keep them toned.
Yeah, it's a completely different type of fitness, and I guess you would look at them like bodybuilders. You know, they're big and strong and powerful because they've got, like I said before, they've got to be powerful to do their job.
So you're turning them from a sort of a track athlete to a sort of weightlifter.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Nick. Yeah.
Well, Gareth, thank you for letting me spend a little bit of time with Harry Angel. He's clearly a horse with plenty to say for himself, as he did on the racecourse, and it's an important year for you, Harry Angel, because your first yearlings are coming up this autumn, and I'm sure they'll make a significant splash. So time now to take a look back on what we've seen already in 2021 from some of the Darley Stallions. And to help me do that, I've got Amy Bennett, who's the managing editor of the European Bloodstock News, and renowned bloodstock journalist Martin Stevens. Amy, let's start with Dubawi. It seems an obvious place to start, given that he normally graces this lawn on every Darley Stallion parade, many of which you've been involved with. It's been a very interesting season, even by his own high standards.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Dubawi is really, he's a very hard horse to, what can you say about him? He keeps raising the bar on his own achievements. I think what we're seeing now is very interesting, that he's also making him an impact as a broodmare sire, as we saw with this year's Derby, which I believe takes him to 4 individual Group 1 winners as a broodmare sire, as well as his own stakes-winning progeny, and then all of those stallion sons that are doing so well.
Yeah, I think 10 individual stallion sons of Dubawi aside stakes winners this year, which is quite a statistic to get your head around, Martin, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess The best of those at the moment, or the most prominent of those at the moment, is Knight of Thunder. Everyone loves Knight of Thunder because his progeny are just so genuine and they're classy. Obviously, Dubarry overridingly is a conduit for that class. Knight of Thunder is definitely passing that on now. He had their Thundering Knights the other day. He has Keep Busy, and they're such genuine fillies. They try so hard, they put their heads down, and they're so straightforward.
Yeah, a couple of Royal Ascot winning fillies for Knight of Thunder.
Exactly.
Dubarry himself striking in the Jersey Stakes with Creative Force, a 1-2 there. So he's still getting these fast horses, as well as being an influence for stamina in other places.
Yeah, very much. I mean, I think that's always been Dubarry's hallmark, that his Group or Grade 1 winners have come from everything from 5 furlongs to 2 miles. You know, versatility has always been one of his hallmarks. And I think it's fantastic for breeders that we're seeing that carrying on into the next generation.
Your mention of the extreme stamina index leads me neatly on to the Gold Cup this year and Subjectivist's performance. Subjectivist, the son of Teofilo Martin. This was rated the highest Gold Cup winning performance of the millennium by time form, 130.
Yeah, and you can see why. It was a high-class field. He won easily. He won very simply and easily. He just went to the front and he stormed home. Excellent stallion, Teofilo, and probably, you know, slightly an unsung hero because he just produces all these Group 1 winners around the world. I think Exultant in Hong Kong is being retired this week. He's the highest earner in Hong Kong, I believe, won 5 Grade 1s out there, bred in Ireland. And he is also making it in the second generation. Damsire of Max Sweeney, Havana Gold, he had his winner at Royal Ascot as well in the Windsor Castle Stakes. So again, there's that versatility there. You know, Teofilo is making his influence felt over 5 furlongs up to the Gold Cup distance.
Yes, you've got Teofilo as a grandsire of a winning 2-year-old at Royal Ascot, courtesy of his own son, Havana Gold. What about a Darley first season sire who's had a winner at Royal Ascot this year in Profitable? It doesn't seem a minute ago we were standing here last year with Adam Kirby remembering his racing career.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, on the flat, Royal Ascot isn't possibly quite the pinnacle that Cheltenham Festival is for the jumps breeders, but it's certainly the first point at which we really start judging these young sires. So for any young stallion to sire a winner at Royal Ascot is very exciting, but to do so in your first crop really makes people sit up and take notice. And she looks a really progressive filly. You know, this isn't going to be where her story ends. She's just going to keep improving. And, you know, Profitable's, I believe, 8 individual winners so far, and that number we're just going to see increasing throughout the season, which is really exciting to see.
Yeah, this is Quick Susie, isn't it? The winner of the winner of the Queen Mary.
Yeah.
And not the only first season sire here at Darley that's made some sort of an impact. Postponed is a very different type of horse, Martin. He's had very few runners, but he's already off the mark.
I don't mean to after time, but I did write earlier in the year that I thought Postponed might make more of an impact this year of his first 2-year-olds than people might expect. He's by Dubarry, who's obviously a champion 2-year-old himself, and he's also from that family of the champion 2-year-olds, Simply Perfect, Biancanera, lovely looking horse, had that winner already. I think he'll do well.
And to have one so early on
in
the season.
Yeah.
I think, if memory serves, Amy, and you'll know because you were here probably around about that time, when Dubarry was first at stud here at Darley, you got to this point in the season, really he was right the way down the table. By the end of the year, he'd had 30-odd 2-year-olds.
The second half of the season just flew, and I think, as Martin says, you know, Postpone's female family is so strong as well with that prevalent juvenile speed. And I think because Postponed did so well as an older horse and from 10 to 12 furlongs, it's easy to forget that actually he did win in, I believe, August as a 2-year-old and ran a really good race in a sales race at Newmarket. Obviously, his Group 1s overshadow all of his younger achievements, but he was no slouch as a juvenile. So it's not surprising to see that being bred on now.
Well, Amy, Martin, thanks so much. Amy Bennett and Martin Stevens, looking back on what already has been a tremendously profitable, pun very much intended, 2021 for Darley Stallions. So that brings us to the end of the Darley Stallion Parade 2021. I hope you've enjoyed it. How could you not? Wonderful horses in spectacular surrounds, both here at Dalham Hall and over with our friends and colleagues at Kildangan Stud in Ireland. Not every horse who races in the Godolphin Blue makes it here as a stallion, but many have varied and fascinating careers away from racing. And we'll leave you now for 2021, but we'll leave you with 4 such talented animals who have excelled in other spheres as part of Godolphin's Lifetime Care programme. Bye-bye.
he has been a horse of a lifetime because he's just such a big character, such a nice horse to work with.
It's been a fantastic opportunity to get this horse from Godolphin actually, and I'm very, very grateful for it.
The main aim of today was just to give Jazz a good experience at his first ever one-day event, and no matter where we finish, I'm just so proud of his attitude, and it really speaks volumes to the versatility of the thoroughbred.
You can't not help fall for him, you know, he's a big softie really at heart.